Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Sigmar.
And in this video, we're comparing Warhammer Underworlds with Godtear.
Yes, two tabletop strategy games on a nice little small
Kind of arena
area.
combat, kind of.
Yeah,
Certainly Underworlds is this sort of hex-based.
Hex-based, a nice sort of WeGo system.
I think they definitely... Yeah, they're definitely in the same basket.
Yes.
Or in the same aisle, if
And
you
I
like,
think
at the supermarket.
if you walk down that aisle and you see Underworlds on one side and Godtear on the other, which should you buy?
Which should you buy? Well, it depends on what you like. If you like deck building, you should go Underworlds.
Underworlds 100%, yeah.
If you don't like deck building, you should probably go Godtear.
Now, we have got another video coming out talking about the new Rivals format that Underworlds are boasting, which means you don't deck build, but we're going to base this comparison on the current version of Underworlds versus the current version of Godtear.
I would say there's significantly less randomness. Even without deck building, there's significantly less randomness in Godtear to Underworld, because even if you've got a pre-built deck, the order in which your cards come out in Underworld can determine what sort of day you have.
Yeah.
In this, everything is available all the time.
Yes, and
pretty much
the dice.
Yeah.
Whilst the dice are six-sided dice, which means your probability can get a bit swingy.
Yeah.
We're generally rolling more of them.
Yeah, because they're kind of more like D3s, aren't they, as well?
They are a bit like D3s, but also instead of rolling maybe 2 hammers or 3 swords, you're generally rolling maybe 5 dice or 6 or 7. So that again equals things out. Not only that, but you're comparing in Godtear your dice roll to a static statistic. So it's like you have a value of 3 and I've got to get 4 or more on my dice.
Yeah.
You've got a better idea there of what your odds are going to be like.
It's much more constant. Godtear is much more constant. So you have your abilities. There's a few bits of tinkering you can do. You can have boons, which make things slightly better, and you have banes, which makes things slightly worse. But you can only have one at a time, so there's never multiple modifiers.
Yeah.
It's much harder to forget stuff, I think.
Yeah.
You can't have a Super Nash 1 fighter. They are the fighters pretty much all the way throughout. They don't really change their abilities.
And because there's no deck building, there's no super cyaning one fighter with all of your upgrades and all of your ploys and just going to town on your opponent.
Yeah.
And also, when you take out a champion in Godtear, that's not it for them. They come back in the next round. So if they get taken out early on in the game, you still got a pretty good chance of getting back in it.
Yeah, I haven't played enough of the game yet. I kind of feel like it's quite a big thing when you do lose a fighter.
I do think it is a big thing. It can be a swinging point.
It might be an illusion that you can come back. I'm not sure.
It depends if it happens really early.
Yeah.
Because it gives you like some points and you've got a chance of winning that round.
Yeah.
But the next round, that fight can then come back and they can rally and then they can still get back into it again. So I do think it's not as bad as if in Underworld your main fighter gets taken out. That's it. They're dead and gone.
I think probably one thing we do definitely have to say is that the look, the miniatures of Underworld are better. There isn't really any competition there.
Yeah.
I actually prefer the board of Godtear. I really like the way it looks, and I really like that you don't have to worry about placing it. You just whop it down, and you play it as by the book.
Yeah, there is no. I mean, as much as I don't think that the boards themselves in Underworlds make a big difference, obviously placement can make a very big difference, and there is all that aspect of where do I place it now. If you feel that adds more complexity to the game for you and you want that, then that would obviously be your thing. But in this you just put the board down and deployment is generally across one of the edges.
Yeah,
I would like to see in Godtear some more strange deployments, maybe across corners or patches on the board and have different layouts. But,
I don't know how that affects things. I guess they're all very straightforward. The only thing that changes is how the objectives change in Godtear. So if you could only play one of these, what would you do? Which one would you play?
Now, before I answer that horribly Sophie's Choice type question, I'm going to just throw a few more things out there about this game. Now, if you're down an island and you're looking at this game, obviously we said that if your deck building is your thing, then go Underworlds. Yeah. But if you're not particularly fussed about deck building, I don't know if this actually starts to beat Underworlds, because
I think as the games stand at the moment, they do.
Yeah, because with Underworlds, you buy your warband, you've got to build decks because that's how you play. You can play with the standalone decks, but they are notoriously quite imbalanced across the different warbands. And generally, once you start down that path, you're going to want to get the other warbands to get the other cards. But in this, you see a warband you like, you just buy it, and that's it. There's no extra cards or worrying about anything. You just pick up and play.
And another thing in Godtear's favour is that as far as I know, new products don't change the rule set.
No, they don't.
So they might have some little quirks that they can do,
Yeah.
but the actual fundamental rules themselves are the same. And you literally just have to learn what
your fighter does.
Your opponent, you're telling what your things do, but he doesn't need to know what the hunger mechanic is or how the primacy mechanic works, and that seems to stay. I mean, I don't know. There are seasons of such of Godtear, but each new warband is kind of self-contained.
Yeah,
which I quite like.
I think there aren't seasons as such. There are 2 different starter boxes now.
Right.
And I think they are working on a new version, or they're looking at playtesters for a new updated version of it,
right.
which would be interesting if that's the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have this annual cycle of seasons which adds more rules and more complexity each time. You just pick, like you say, you pick your warbands. They have their own set of rules, and that's all you have to care about.
And it's nice. I mean, I feel like we're really coming down on the Godtear side. It's nice that you can just buy. I mean, isn't there one called Pete's something or other? Stinky Pete or something. Sneaky Pete's. You can just buy that. Oh, I like the look of that. I'm going to buy that.
Exactly.
That changed your gaming experience, but you don't have to feel like I've got to chase everything else.
It's not like when the Chosen Axes came out in season 1 and they had our card.
Ready for action!
And everyone was suddenly like, oh, I'm going to have to buy the dwarves now, even if you hated the dwarves.
Yeah.
In this, there isn't that at all.
No,
so
you can literally buy what you want and play with it. And I guess there's probably some synergies between the gangs that we don't really know about.
Warband stuff.
But even that in itself is nice. That is a different aspect of game building, if you like. That you actually, the synergies are on a macro level, whereas you've got card synergies, but here you've actually got warband synergies, and what you pick together actually changes the whole thing, which is quite a nice, different way of looking at the strategy.
Another thing I like about this is the fact that if we both turn up and we've got 3 or 4 warbands each, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll play these 3 out of the 4, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll play these 2, but I'll borrow your other one.
Yeah.
There's no whose card is whose is what. It's just, these are the 3 cards from, this is the warband, you can do that. Or you can play a draft system where you just put all your champions on the board and then you take turns picking them.
Like windows.
And then you can vary things much easier. In Underworlds, it's mostly a case of, okay, I've beaten you with mine. Do you have another deck that you then need to work out, or shall we just swap decks?
Yeah,
that's kind of about it.
Yeah, or if you're playing somebody, who's less experienced, you can take a different set of warbands and make it a little bit easier or whatever. It's a bit harder to do with Underworlds. You've got your deck, unless you've got all your cards with you. But even then, just trying to sort out a new deck, it can be quite
or you've
difficult. Literally, all we'd have to do is just go, I'm going to take these out and put these in. That's it. Job's done.
Exactly. Whereas in Underworlds, even if you come up with 2 completely separate decks, you've got to come up with those decks beforehand and work them out. And if that's your thing, and deck building is your thing, and then you're probably going to love that. But if you're not a big fan of that, like we're not, then this works there.
Yeah. One thing we can't get away from, though, is that Steamforged games are a smaller outfit than Games Workshop.
They are massively smaller.
The following of Underworlds isn't that big and has tailed off after COVID. Yeah. I don't know how much Godtear is being played. It's all very well having 3 warbands that you can play with anybody who's out there.
True.
But if you can't find anybody to play with, that's going to be an issue. Now, I have to say, I don't know from experience how many people are out there, but that would be a concern if I was looking in the supermarket. Am I ending up by backing Betamax rather than VHS? So, Betamax is better if nobody's using it. You can't use it. Most of you who are probably, I don't know if anybody watches, are too young to know what that reference.
Well, I think most of our
they're all our age.
So they were like, Betamax got that. Their kids are sitting there going, what's a Betamax, Dad? Now,
it's not the Hero in Big Hero.
It's not, sadly not, no. Now, I had another point that I was going to say here that you've kind of made me forget a little bit now. You shot my brain to pieces with that Betamax comment. One thing that I will say falls on the side of Underworlds, it's quicker. It is quicker to play Underworlds. You can, if you're not, thinking too well, if you're a bit more practiced with your warband or whatever in your deck, you can knock a game of that out in possibly 40 minutes.
I mean, to be fair to Godtear, we haven't played it as much. So our game tonight did take a long time.
I feel like there's more back and forth in this game though, because your opponent in Underworlds, if your opponent gets their tactic off, they might just wipe half your warband out very quickly, and then you haven't got very much you can do to come back. In this, it always feels like you've got a little bit more of a chance to get back in the game.
Games of Underworlds often accelerate towards the end, don't they? It's got less and less to do. Whereas here, you've largely got lots to do at the beginning, middle, and end of the game.
Exactly. So we'd lost fighters on either side, but all your champions are still there.
Yeah.
So you can still feel like you've got a chance to win. And if you don't, and your opponent wins the first 3 rounds of Godtear, the way it stands, you're like, okay, well, I know I can't win now. There isn't I've got that Hail Mary pass of a possibility. I can't, so
that's it.
Let's call it there,
Game
pack
over,
up, or
man.
start another game.
And similarly, you're not out of the game if you've lost the first 2 rounds. You're not out of the game. Winning the 3rd round, and it's level pegging.
Yeah.
And then literally whoever wins the next round is the winner. Which I also quite like.
So, I do like that quite a bit.
So, there you go. That's a very quick overview of
very
Underworlds,
mishmash set of things.
Underworlds versus Godtear. We are going to probably, hopefully, continue to play both on the channel. I hope we can sort of rally a banner to Godtear. To the Godtear, because I think it's a really nice game. It'd be really nice to get a following. So if you followed us from the Godtear part of the world, tell your friends, and we'll try and get some games out of this, and maybe get a couple of new gangs to play.
Let us know what you think about each one. Have you played Underworlds for a long time and given it up during COVID, or generally just given up because it's got a bit stale, or have you played Godtear and you found that the rules are maybe a bit too simple for you and you prefer Underworlds in that situation? I'd like to know what people think about each one and what their preference is and what they've been lured towards. One other thing that has come to mind very quickly that is another good thing is that you can download all of the information for all of the warbands in Godtear.
Yeah, they keep that up to date, unlike other companies.
Officially, you can officially download it. So you can, if you really want to try out one of the warbands, you haven't bought it yet, you could download the information on the cards and you could just proxy some models. You can do that for Underworlds, but it's not official.
Yeah. So we could actually play Godtear with like Underworld models potentially.
Could really, I mean, that would be a bit confusing then, because you do need like 5 of them that are the same.
That's true.
Which would be tricky.
Yeah, Fly Space Marines.
So that's my other thing. What was yours?
Well, and this is probably slightly damning indictment of Underworld. If you were gonna, if you had a player of each, I think of all you Underworlds players out there, most of the people who watch us, I would say, definitely give Godtear a try. Find somebody who plays it. Find a club that plays it. And give it a go. I think you'd really like it.
And it's not a huge investment.
No. If you were big into Godtear, I'm not sure I'd be saying, oh, you should try out Underworld, because I think this ticks a lot of Underworld boxes, but without that continual buy-in of cards. And kind of continual chasing.
That rotation of they've got rid of all the season 3 cards.
So I feel like what it loses in some of the deck building aspects, which does bring something to Underworlds this doesn't have. I think what it loses, it gains in the fact that it's a kind of slightly more static situation. So that's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about it, but I'm saying my own point is interesting. But I don't. If you play,
such an interesting point.
If you play Underworlds, definitely give this a try. So I'm not sure I'd necessarily recommend it the other way.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think that is a very good way of sort of looking at it as an ultimate point. And So I mean, maybe that will change with the Rivals format. Now, if you're interested in the Rivals format, Pete and I have got another little video about the information we know. So far, we don't know a lot, but that will be coming out around now. So you can find that on the YouTubes somewhere too. But if you want to get notifications for when we do a new video, then please like and subscribe, hit that bell, all that sort of stuff. Make some comments, big up the Ages of Sigmar. Let's try and get our algorithm running. And then hopefully we can do more Godtear, more Underworlds, maybe some more Kill Team, all sorts of things. Really, the more games we can play, the better, I think. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Are we talking nonsense? Is Godtear rubbish, or is Underworlds a thing of the past and the Godtear is the new norm?
I think there's room for both, but I'm really enjoying Godtear right now.
So we'll see you soon.
Bye.